Good morning, everyone. It seems that way back in April 10th, this Liberal MP was arrested in Guelph for some pretty serious charges. Here's Graham McNaughton, who's a Guelph reporter, and he says PMO has confirmed with the Canadian press that it has learned of charges against Tabera this morning. I think that's how you say that. I myself am still waiting for a reply from the PMO, also looking into why Guelph police did not make this incident public as it happened around 2 months ago. Good question, Graham. And here is the news article on it. It's Global News, and this is June 5th. And I'm reading this just for a specific reason. There's always a publication ban, especially in Guelph. I've noticed when I was during the PPC run, etc. There were a lot of crimes that had publication bans, and I mean, you can guess why. Here's MP Marwan Tabera leaving Liberal caucus after charges laid. And he says he's stepping away. I don't know if he's officially leaving the caucus or what's going on, but if this was a Conservative MP, you best believe the Liberals, A, would have been prepared for it, and B, would have had talking points ready to go, and they'd be hammering them on this. And the Conservatives didn't have a comment. Right? Brutal. Anyway, and B, the Liberals would be screaming for him to be ejected from caucus. And this is, I'm going to step away. Okay. Kitchener South Hespeler MP Marwan Tabera is facing several charges after being arrested in Guelph, Ontario on April 10th. Guelph police said the Liberal MP has been charged with assault, break and enter, and commit an indictable offense and criminal harassment. Criminal harassment? It sounds like a romantic situation gone wrong. That's what it sounds like to me. I scroll down a little bit. He is scheduled to make a court appearance on June 19th. There's a publication ban in place which prevents Global News from revealing any details obtained from court documents. Publication ban. Sorry, can't talk about it. I scroll down to the bottom. Representatives for the Conservative Party did not immediately respond to a request for comment late Friday afternoon. If you're a Conservative and this breaks, you should get on the phone. If you're you should get on the phone and be making press releases. You should be saying, this happened and this is awful and how can our representation be prepared or be represented properly by this? Same with any opponent. Any opposition should be making hay of this. An email should have gone out. Press releases should have gone out. Honestly, what are people doing? Seriously. And I don't know. I'm not on those email lists, but I would imagine that if the Conservatives were prepared for that, they wouldn't have been caught flat-footed with no comment, right? Like, think of the constituents. I mean, you should at least have a comment, right? Give me 10 minutes. Come on. Amateur hour. Okay, CBC News is reporting a study has found that hydroxychloroquine increased the risk of death in COVID-19 patients has been retracted by its authors. Lancet is it was a big influential company. It was the big study, and it was the study that was cited to halt all the WHO studies around the world to see if this worked, the hydroxychloroquine with zinc, and they had to retract it because the data was faulty. I mean, at least they retracted it, right? At least they didn't continue to double down. Here's another quill or arrow in the quill of racism and race-based stories. And I'm using this to show it's interesting that we find it a-okay to make political hay out of judging people from more than 100 years ago by today's standards. And I'm going to show you what Jason Kenney says. He says, Laurier signed an order that prevented immigration from black people. And that's correct. But he did that because the public demanded it. And I mean, I think that judging 100-year-old legislation or judging people from 100 years ago with the same standard as you would judge someone now is faulty logic. It is a mistake. And Jason Kenney here is leading us down the garden path. And he's got a vested interest in this. He was the multiculturalism minister in a federal cabinet, and he's talking about how he led the apology tour. And that doesn't make it okay. You know what I mean? I don't think it is accurate to judge people from 100 years ago plus by today's measuring stick. I just think it's wrong. Here we go.
Racism is sadly a reality in our own society here in Alberta. I think we're a lot better than most places around the world in Canada when it comes to respecting human dignity and equality of all before the law, but we have our own sad history of institutional racism. You know, one of the things I worked on proudly as the federal multiculturalism minister was the federal government's redress and apology for racist policies like the Chinese Head Tax and Exclusion Act. And you know that Prime Minister Laurier actually signed an order blocking black people from entering Canada back in the first decade of the last century.
So, and it was in 1911, actually, according to this. But it's interesting because just the other week I was reading how in China right now, a McDonald's in China said that they wouldn't serve black people because black people spread the coronavirus. Right? So we can talk all we want, the nice words of institutional racism, blah, 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 blah. But how is it accurate to judge people from 100 years ago by our measuring stick now? Here's the anti-black racism in Canada. This is the Canadian Encyclopedia. Interesting to note that the last edit was made in February of this year. So I think that's, right? Okay. I don't know. They also demanded that authorities stop further black immigration. On 31 March 1911, the Edmonton chapter of the Imperial Order Daughters of the Empire, an imperialist women's group, petitioned the Minister of the Interior, quote, "We view with alarm the continuous and rapid influx of Negro settlers," they wrote. "This immigration will have the immediate effect of discouraging white settlement in the vicinity of the Negro farms and will depreciate the value of all holdings within such areas." The Edmonton Board of Trade submitted a similarly worded petition on 25 April, which was echoed by boards of trade across the West. And then further down, I scroll down a little bit. Canadians who wanted to stop black immigration argued that black persons would not adapt to Canada's cold climate, or that racial conflict in the United States would be replicated in Canada. So I say again, if you and the order in council was a 1-year immigration ban, okay, and I think that it is interesting that if the Canadian public demanded it and the government of Canada said, okay, and 10 years later, 109 years later, we're sitting here saying, oh my goodness, that's so racist, and that's descriptive of the systemic racism in Canada. I think that that's faulty. I think that is as faulty as using the incident of George Floyd in the United States to justify the protests across Canada. I really do. I think that it's using the same faulty logic. It's using the same emoting from accessing your emotions rather than your thinking. And what it does is furthers the story of racism that they want to push. And it doesn't help anything. It doesn't fix the problem, right? It doesn't solve the problem at all. It likely makes it worse. Anyway, moving forward, I'm showing you this tweet for two reasons. One, they use this street, and you'd think, as it's a 680 News tweet, you'd think that that's in Toronto, right? Maybe that's Bay and Bloor, right? Or Bay and Front. Bay and Bloor? I don't even know. Yeah, Bay and Front. Doesn't matter. Young and Front? Anyway, that one does. But it's not. It's Washington, right? This is Washington. Washington, D.C. mayor has Black Lives Matter painted on street leading to White House. Why do you think they did that? Right? It's to tick Trump off, right? So anyway, 680 News is reporting anti-racism demonstrators are planning 2 separate protests today on the streets of downtown Toronto. Neither event is affiliated with Black Lives Matter TO or Not Another Black Life, but we'll use the Black Lives Matter painting on the street in Washington, D.C. for no other reason than we just want to imply that it's a Black Lives Matter protest. In fact, when I was setting up my story here, I thought that the title said Black Lives Matter, and I was looking for it because it's important that I show that there are Black Lives Matter protests lining up for Toronto today for the story. But it's crazy what your mind does, right? My mind inserted that headline when that didn't exist. It says anti-racism demonstrators. So, right? And I'll show you that it's Black Lives Matter. It's not the Black Lives Matter TO. This is Lucas Meyer, and Lucas Meyer is a News Talk 1010 reporter. And he says, important, Black Lives Matter Toronto is going out saying it has no involvement with any protests going on this week. And according to this online page that has been used to pass information, there's various warnings about protests going on today and tomorrow. Okay, so here's a page. Here's the page. I wish that he'd linked to the page, but it's a screenshot. And I'm just going to take myself off here for a minute. And show you that. So on the May 30th, it says, warning, please stay home. Riots are planned to happen and not associated with a Black Lives Matter organization. Check IG, and then it gives a IG handle, Instagram. And then the June 5th, alert organizers have not been transparent to the public. Please go to the IG for more info. We personally talked to the organizer to make sure right measures were taken, but there's still concern. And then June 6th, 2 p.m., Trinity Bellwood Park, warning, please stay home. Riots are planned to happen on this day. And then here's some further Lucas Myers showing the organizers. So these are organizers' accounts. And these are just pictures of the organizers' accounts, but they've all got the same kind of hammer and sickle. Is that how you say that? It's terrible, isn't it? They've all got the same like fist holding a thing, right? Like it looks very BLM, very organized. And it's interesting because and here's Black Lives Matter Toronto. It's interesting because we've been told that by public health that we have to stay home. You're going to kill your grandma, right? You're going to kill, if you're not going to kill your grandma, you're going to kill somebody else's grandma. You don't want to be responsible for that, right? But we've got to go protest this, right? I did a whole thing on the cities, Ottawa and Guelph and other mid-level politicians. Since I posted that, the Lumico, the Ontario small town or medium-sized mayors or whatever, published their fealty to Black Lives Matter and their commitment to diversity being their strength or whatever garbage buzzwords you want to insert. So I think that it's notable that even if Black Lives Matter themselves are saying, no, this isn't us, man. This is not, do whatever you want to do, but this isn't our protest. They don't want to be associated with this. So whatever's going to happen, I don't think it's going to be a good thing. But the politicians are all about, you go. And they're all about getting that photo op, right? What's going to get Justin Trudeau out of the cottage? What's going to get Justin Trudeau out of the cottage? You need to ask. I just want to make sure that the Ford government, you understand that the Ford government has extended all emergency orders until June 19th. They were previously supposed to be in place until June 9th. That means if you are on a park bench or on a park play structure, or if you're doing chin-ups in a park, or if you're with non-family members, the snitch lines can be called. You can get a fine, but these people don't get a fine, right? And that made me super, super upset. And here's Deputy Prime Minister Freeland doubling down on this. I thought that it was Guelph. I thought, man, you guys are crazy leftists. This is nuts. I can't believe that you're being so hypocritical, careless with public health if you want to play that game, right? If you want to say public health is important and then you're saying, oh yeah, but protesting this is important. And now I realize my mistake. Sorry, everyone. My mistake in thinking that it was just Guelph. It's the whole country. It's the whole country. It doesn't matter that Doug Ford just extended the lockdown. No, it doesn't matter. If you're a business and you want to open, you will be fine. But if you want to go protest, well, that's just fine. No problems. You want to see? Here's Canaditude tweeting, in Canada under this Liberal government, you'll be punished for going to a public park, visiting outside a long-term care home, opening your business and spending time with your large family, but they condone mass protest and give health guidance when doing so. Wake up. Here we go. So here's Deputy Prime Minister talking about how important it is to support protests.
Peaceful protest is a valued and important and really useful form of political expression. It's a way that you as a citizen show your commitment to your society. I think Dr. Tam has offered some advice earlier this week about protesting in the age of coronavirus, because there's obviously a concern where when we are advising against any large groups getting together, a protest by definition is a group of people getting together. And I think it's also something we all need to be concerned about. And I would say, as Dr. Tam has already said, really important also to realize the coronavirus is still here, important to wear masks, important to have sanitizer, and really to take those health precautions seriously.
Okay, so masks and sanitizer and all that work, and it's a dubious fact that they work. I don't think that it's proven. Then why can't we do that for businesses? Why can't we do that for schools? Why can't we do that for the wider public? Why is it only okay for protesters? And part of the sticking point here is protesters are allowed to assess their own risk. I feel safe going to this protest feeling that I will not get sick, or feeling safe enough that I've taken precautions enough that I won't get sick. But people who want to attend a business or open their business, they don't get the same right to assess their own risk. I feel safe enough to open my business and deal with whatever public who feels safe enough to come and see me. I feel safe enough to go into this business knowing that they feel safe enough to have me, right? But they don't get to make that choice, but the protester does, and it's okay with the government? And we've spent billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars to keep people at home, to flatten the curve, to do all this stuff, and yet what gets Justin Trudeau out of his cottage like a photo op? Right? Here's Steve. He says the Prime Minister of Canada is breaking all civic, provincial, and federal COVID health rules, no person shall attend an organized public event of more than 5 people. And here we go.
Stand up to Trump! 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 Stand up to Trump!
And immediately following the stand up to Trump. So I like this because the camera person here, first, see if you can spot when Justin Trudeau spots that he's being recorded. And second, I think that maybe it's coordinated as the person recording says, hey, get away, and shoos the very, very serious looking woman with the mask and the sunglasses here. And it's overly warm, but she's wearing the vest and yeah, right? You see what I'm talking about? So, right? Just watch. Stand up to Trump. I'm sure this isn't back to back. I don't mean to misrepresent this as being back to back. It's probably maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. It's still the idea that stand up to Trump. And then he does this. It's so funny. Okay, here we go. So it wasn't even like he was like, he instigated it. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna kneel. I'm surprised he didn't put his fist up. You know, it's man. Here's an incredulous Canadian who's an award-winning journalist, TV, radio host, etc. She said, so holding question period is too dangerous, but attending a mass protest is just fine. The hypocrisy, right? And that's the problem. This was funny. I thought these memes, man, or these memes are fantastic, right? So here's when irony makes you kneel to yourself, right? Oh, I'll get rid of me. Hold on a second here. Okay, here it is, right? It's so, well, it would be parody. It would be hilarious if it wasn't so sad, right? Like this is our prime minister. Okay, here's Trudeau being heckled. I'm not entirely sure. Something, you lose, blackface, chill out. I don't know what he says exactly, but he's not being very friendly. And I mean, like, how could you take this government seriously? They're saying with a straight face, protesting, way more important than opening our economy and businesses. Doug Ford extended the emergency orders, and still Trudeau ignores it. The emergency orders don't apply to him. He's protesting. He's with the people, right? Go home, blackface. Here's Catherine McKenna. Is she social distancing? No, she's there. I saw another post from like Houston or down south in the States talking about how if you want to get a picture with a black person, selfies with black people are not okay at this protest, you have to ask them. And if the black person tells you to do something, you have to do it. And I was like we've gone around the corner. Like, this is insane. This is even more crazy. And like, it's funny that these people being Catherine McKenna think that not going to work is going to be acceptable by most Canadians, and going to this instead of going to work is going to also be acceptable to Canadians. And the reason they can't go to work is because they can't be too close to each other. And the reason they went to this is because this is more important than anything else right now. I don't understand. I do understand. Like, I get that their actions are resulting in very negative consequences for Canada. I understand that. I do. But if you believe that these people are helping Canada or making the best choices for the country, and you watch them do this and you say, oh yeah, I get it. I understand what they're like. Yesterday they were working on flattening the curve and keeping people home to stop the spread of the virus, to save lives. And today they're supporting Black Lives Matter, who aren't condoned by the actual Black Lives Matter in the city that they're in, the biggest city in the country, or one of the biggest cities in the country. And yet still the politicians are doubling down on their support for that simultaneously. Can those two things exist at the same time? Like, your cognitive dissonance must be tingling, right? You cannot do both. I don't know if I make my point clear enough. Here's raw video from an Edmonton rally. Okay, this is not safe, but condoned by the people. by the people in charge, right? This is condoned. This is safe, but we're supposed to believe in just one story's time that it's not safe, okay? Like, this is the craziness of our leadership. Here we go. So I don't know how you can justify saying that this is no problem, but we can't have people in the House of Commons. This is no problem, but a safe restart of the Canadian economy will take 6 to 8 months. 6 to 8 months? CTV News is reporting June 5th. Today is the 6th. A safe restart of the Canadian economy will likely take at least half a year, Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland says Friday, a day after Chief Public Health Officer Dr. Theresa Tam cautioned that relaxing current restrictions too much or too soon could result in explosive growth of new cases. Right? I feel like that episode of Friends with Joey. And he's like, it's a moot point. Back to this. Most provinces and territories have begun reporting no or very few cases, and deaths are not beginning, and are beginning to look at how to restart the economy. But Ontario and Quebec are still reporting close to or more than 300 new cases a day, and numbers of deaths, and numerous deaths. Sorry, I knew that wasn't right. The two provinces now account for more than 90% of the cases, but have also begun plans for reopening. Tam said Thursday that until an effective vaccine or treatment becomes available, Canada needs to remain vigilant with its containment efforts to prevent an explosive second wave, with the latest federal modeling showing that another peak was possible in October without sufficient prevention measures. In October? Okay, first of all, the virus doesn't like protesters, apparently, so maybe have a protest sale. And then it doesn't so much like summer. So if you guys have coronavirus and you walk around all summer, even with a 2-week incubation period, it's probably not going to be a second wave until October. So be really scared and careful, and only go to protests. You're not allowed to open your business or we'll fine you. Emergency, state of emergency. It seems crazy. Also, the idea of a vaccine is, I think completely debunked. Like the evidence they have to not use HCQ, hydroxychloroquine, is thin at best. And no, I just don't think that it works. I don't think that their argument works. I think that we have an effective treatment. It's 22 minutes. I was aiming for 15 minutes. Anyway, I think that we have an effective treatment. I think that we have, it would be irresponsible to withhold something like that, especially in the face of them, Lancet, pulling their study that shows heart damage. It is unbelievable where we're at in our country right now. It's unbelievable, the hypocrisy of the leadership. It is unbelievable that they think that the Canadian public are too stupid to see it. But more than that, I think that they think that even if they do see it, all you have to do is marginalize the people who see it as crackpot, crazy people, right? And say to the rest, no, it's fine to go to protests, but don't open your businesses. Enjoy teaching or public servant, having your full public servant salary from home. It's right. Like there are real issues with this from top to bottom, and well, I don't know how you solve it. I'm not gonna talk about this tab. Link for this tab's in the description. Basically, this is Yves Giroux saying that we've lost our sense of perspective with regard to the spending that we're doing. Basically, I think it's really interesting, but I don't have time to talk about it right now. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co, and check out SpeakingMoistly.co, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.